Okay, I'm just going to refresh it at least several times. um, times. Okay. Looks like it is good on my end. Okay, awesome. All right, let's get started on this. All right,
Looks
all
like
right.
it is good on my end.
Whoa.
Oh,
Sorry, I had to mute my computer.
Yeah, understandable.
Discord,
all right.
everyone.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Welcome everyone to the 12th episode of Goddess Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. And of course, I have the amazing Mike Pollock and Ryan Bartley here today.
Hello guys.
Wow.
We're so
Thank you
glad
so
to
much,
be
Ryan.
here.
Oh, like it's just very honorable to have you both here today for this Q&A. So let's get started.
All right. Thanks for having us. Yeah, we're stoked to be here.
All right. Here's my first question for you both. How did you both get into voice acting? Like, what got you interested in pursuing voice acting?
Ooh, good question. You can go first, Father.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As a kid, I grew up loving theater and loving radio. Pursued theater in school, theater and community theater. Loved radio in the background. Went to school for radio. Came time to pick a career, and radio seemed a little more stable than theater, which isn't saying much. And radio was reasonably stable for about 15, 20 years. And then it had enough of me. And as it was starting to have enough of me later in my radio career, I was starting to fall back on theater as a backup thing. Wrote the demo tape, sent it around. People liked it. People liked Pokemon and the folks at the Fox Box and 4Kids TV. And then when radio kicked me to the curb one last time, I did not look back and looked forward to the world of theater and especially voiceover, which married my two loves of theater and radio.
Awesome. Well, I had an agent for on-camera work as a kid, and I started getting auditions for voiceover, mostly like commercial auditions, like radio commercials, where they would need a real child. And I started auditioning for voiceover jobs and thinking, I really like this. And then it kind of took off when I started working for Radio Disney. Radio Disney uses real children to do their promos. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, like, Radio Disney, we're all ears, like that kind of thing, And so I started doing that, and I was doing that for a couple years. I auditioned actually a few times before I was selected, because they would have these open auditions for real kids every year. And sometimes they would be at like a movie theater, or one time I think it was at like the Texas Rangers baseball stadium or something like that. And, they'd have these public sort of wide casting calls for children to do these radio promos and stuff. So, after a few tries, finally I made it. And I was doing that, and I really wanted to do animation and cartoons, but those are so hard to book. It's such a hard thing to break into. Still, it's a challenge to break into stuff like that. So, I started studying more and more with different teachers and coaches that specialize in animation, while also continuing to study commercial work and all that. And I was doing theater and musicals and trying to do film acting as well still. So that's kind of how it started. And eventually with just keeping at it and taking classes and meeting the right people and, networking and trying my best and trying to grow as an artist continually through that journey. Eventually I made this my living. But it took a really long time for it to really take off. But that's kind of how it started, to answer your question.
Very interesting. I always love knowing more about the backstory of how you got into voice acting. It's just so interesting because everyone has like different stories, and
yeah,
so inspirational.
Oh, thank you. Such a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Are there any questions in the chat? Looks like I don't see any yet. Okay. Ooh, here's my next question for you both. Are there any other professional voice actors who inspired you? Um,
Who's first
Sure.
again?
Oh, sure. Do you want me to go first? Or do you want to go first, Mike?
Let's take turns. You go first.
Okay.
I'll,
Sure.
I'll
Yeah,
cover
yeah.
your answer.
There's so many people that I look up to. I really, I tend to, I guess, I especially look up to people that I think are really good people in addition to being very talented, because there's so many people that are really talented, and obviously we meet so many lovely people. It's super special when you meet someone who is genuinely a lovely person and also is just mind-blowingly talented. And for me, Kari Walgren really takes the cake in that department. She's such a good, genuinely good person. And I always want to make sure that throughout, our journey as voice actors, and my specifically my journey as an artist, that we're always remaining grounded and kind. Which I know that it should be a given, but unfortunately, there are some people that I looked up to as a kid that I don't think fit into that category. And Kari really does. She's a good person, and I've met her, been lucky enough to meet her throughout my career a few different times. And she's always remembered me, which was very humbling and sweet. And it really meant a lot to me. I think the first time we met, I was 15 or 16 at most. And then I met her again when I was like 19 or 20, maybe 21. And she remembered me exactly. And it just meant a lot. Um, and but she's also so talented. I mean, that's the main thing, is she's so talented. And other people that I would put in that category, I mean, I actually met Tom Kenny this weekend. I was at Central Florida Comic Con, and Tom Kenny was there, and of course I've looked up to him for, you know, over a decade. And getting to meet him in person did not disappoint. He was as kind and open and warm as you would, and funny as you would hope and expect. And it was not a letdown at all. And I don't mean to put too much pressure on actors, because we're only human, of course, but it is so heartwarming when you meet them in person and they live up to what you hope, in terms of just being nice. And yeah, so I'm gonna say, someone in the chat also mentioned Lisa Ortiz. Lisa's so very sweet, has directed me on Pokemon, and has always been such a kind person. I just went to her birthday party a few weeks ago. At Sean, I don't know. I just haven't met him in person, but yeah, those are a couple of people that I look up to. I'm trying to think if there's any. Sandy Fox and Lex Lang have always been super talented and consistent people, and good hearted people. Also, I mean, all the Sonics that I have met are so very kind. I work very closely, very often with Jason Griffith, because we do loop groups together, and which is additional voices in TV and films. And so I see him all the time in person, and we've been doing that together for a few years, since before I could talk about Sonic, because I remember really wanting to tell him about Sonic for a very long time before I was able to. And he's also just such a shining light in our industry that I always looked up to. So talented. I get to see him work in person, like I said, because we do the loop groups in person and live. He's really something else. He's really excruciatingly talented. Oh, someone mentioned Rob Paulson. See, that's the thing, is I love Rob Paulson's work, but I've never met him. So, but yeah, absolutely love him. Billy West. I mean, I'm a massive Futurama fan, so personally, I look up to Billy West a lot. John DiMaggio. Yeah, I haven't met them, but absolutely adore their work. So yeah, there's some answers for you.
Nice.
And I'll say Ryan Bartley.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And that's a recent choice. But if we go back, because I'm much older than most people, going back to my childhood, every cartoon and radio show I ever watched or heard that had a distinctive voice. On TV, the cast of Rocky and Bullwinkle, who, when I was a pushy kid in high school, I managed to get them all on the phone and talk to them in their later years. They were all much kinder than they needed to be for some kid bothering them at home. for a college radio show that he was working on. But they were so nice, and they did honor my bizarre requests for voice clips. Watching obviously Mel Blanc, listening to his work in the various Warner Brothers cartoons, the Disney cartoons that I would sample now and again. But one of my real influences that you're probably not going to know about because you can't even find much about him online in New York radio was a man named Gene Clavin. Gene Clavin was famous for doing a whole bunch of characters live with himself on the air, shuttling back between his natural voice and the character voices. And he would keep me entertained through my junior high school and high school years while he was while I caught his show. Great talent. Met him a couple of times when I was just a kid and then went to see a live show. So nice, so kind. We didn't really have much to chat about, but I got to appear on his live show with one of my friends. We did a little bit. It was a highlight of my young life. And there are still moments of stuff that I do today where I think back and say, oh, that's a Gene Clavin thing that I just subconsciously stole. Cool.
Wow, that's I love the notable like people you both have mentioned. It's like there's always like an inspiration where it really inspires you to become a voice actor, and hearing all the notable names that you guys mentioned, it's quite interesting to learn.
Yeah.
We have fun.
We're surrounded by so many talented people. It's hard to say. I mean, we take inspiration from our peers, from people throughout radio and television and cinema history. There's just so many places you can draw inspiration from, and so many people who have been good at voiceover and comedy throughout this journey of media. And those are just a few. I'm sure we could go on and on, but yeah, those are some that come to mind today.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, looks like I see questions in the chats. Here is a question from _prankster dubs. Question for both. What was the most funny inside joke within recording? Ooh, that's a great question.
It's such a good question, but it's so hard because we don't always record together, and for Frontiers, we didn't. So I wish I could tell you there was like a hilarious thing that happened and we were in a group and we all laughed, but like, that's not how we record, video games. Sometimes we're so isolated, and I didn't even meet the video game cast. And well, I guess I already knew some of them. I knew Cindy Robinson and, but yeah, we didn't have those moments during recording of this game, at least, so I don't know. I'm trying to think if there was anything that happened. It wouldn't have been with the cast. It would have just been with the director and creator,
Mm.
Do you have anything, Mike?
Yeah, I'll go back to Sonic Boom, which we did record ensemble style.
Oh, that's cool. Lucky.
Yeah, that was a tremendous thing. And if there's ever a reboot, we should have you there for some. But I'm projecting way into the future and making stuff up. But we all doubled up on multiple characters doing multiple voices. And should I out Roger Craig Smith? Yes, okay, I just did. Roger, who does thousands of voices just in general, you would expect to have a bit of a challenging time keeping them separate. So for some of his characters, at least for the first few weeks of recording, he would be famous for asking for a vocal reference, which is perfectly normal if you're doing a character that you did before and you might have forgotten. Can I get a reference? Sure. Roger, because he's so versatile and doing so many voices, 4 or 5 weeks in, he was still asking for a reference for some of the characters. So eventually we would just say, you need a reference? Can I get a reference? We're just having fun getting references, giving references, and you had to be there. It's not nearly as funny now.
It was still funny.
Sure. Next time you see him, no, don't say it and mention it. That's it. I didn't say it.
I think now the Mike's what is it, Mike satin shirts or whatever, that's like, I don't even fully understand it, but it still makes me giggle, so we'll say that one is a good inside joke.
It's actually it's a pull from Queen Elizabeth, who would always wear bright colors, so she would always be seen. You would always know, even if you're standing in a crowd 14 people deep and you see a flash of fuchsia or bright green, you can say to yourself, I saw the queen, except you saw a flash of her clothing. This way, at least, if you see me in a crowd, I saw Mike in one of his shiny shirts. Yay.
That's so funny.
Thank
Someday
you.
I'm going to show up at a con in a shiny shirt just to honor you. If we ever do a con on your birthday together or something.
Please. We'll have a shirt rumble.
Yes, as they do, you know.
Ooh, I see another question in the chat. It's from Kevin. My question for Ryan. What was the voice direction like for Sage? Great question.
Yeah, good question. So for Sage, you know, I think with Frontiers, because it is that more grounded performance, that a little bit more kind of mature take on the Sonic franchise, you know, a lot of the actors will tell you that they had to sort of change their performance or the pitch or delivery of their lines to fit that sort of more mature, kind of darker Sonic world. And we didn't have to worry about that with Sage because I wasn't working against any version of the character that I had already been doing before. And so I know when we were establishing the voice, the director said, "Oh, thank goodness we don't have to, you know, we don't have to find anything that's different from what you're used to," because that is like a challenge for the rest of everyone in the game except me, I guess, maybe. But yeah, it was a clean slate, and it was kind of creating out of nothing, so it was easier, I think, for me. And I had played characters many times that fit this sort of archetype of the AI who is very intelligent and yet innocent. It is not an old soul. It's a little bit different. It is quite a young soul and naive, yet hyper intelligent and intellectual and curious about human ways. In this case, Sonic being the human character, even though he's literally a hedgehog, but curious about, you know, humanity's unique quirks and trying to learn about why they are the way they are and learning to respect friendship and kindness and things that humans or hedgehogs do and feelings that they have. And so, you know, because I had played so many characters that also experienced that same journey, a lot of times there's a moment where these characters cry for the first time. Rei Ayanami in Evangelion has that moment, and Sage has that moment. And they become sort of like very, very human in that moment, even though they're AI, right? And that's sort of the crux of the character, is how real is this person, and do they have a soul? Is this a soul? Is this what being a human is? And yeah, so I think, like, in terms of the direction and the performance of Sage, I took from the characters throughout history that I've played. You know, I played AI in Sword Art Online, and I've played so many characters like this that are the doll kind of archetype. And yeah, so we leaned on all of that, all of the things that I have learned through playing those characters, and also did not have to overcome any sort of other performance or other version of the character that I had established before, because we were given free range to do whatever we wanted, and I wasn't working against my own instinct with the performance or anything like that. So it was cool. It was pretty easy, to be honest with you. It was really kind of like a character that I felt comfortable in. I knew who she was really quickly, if that makes sense. I wasn't working against my own instincts. And we were kind of all on the same page, the creators and the director and I. We all felt confident in that we were doing what needed to be done for that character, and it was all good vibes. It didn't seem to be not working. There was never a point at which we thought this wasn't going to work. So yeah, we were pretty confident about it.
That's so interesting to learn because I know a lot of people were like, I am curious about how the voice direction for Sage was. But that's really good that it was actually easy and you immediately understood the character.
Yeah, I think they cast it well. If I do say so myself.
I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ooh, I see another question in the chats by Ricky Valdez. Hey Ryan, wanna ask, besides Frontiers, what is your favorite Sonic game?
Oh, I answered that one in the chat. Sonic Adventure 2. That's what I say.
Ooh, Sonic Adventure 2. Nice.
I think that's a popular one too. A lot of people like.
Mm-hmm. Like for sure.
But I haven't played all. I mean, I'm not very coordinated, so I don't play a lot of games, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. In fact, even Frontiers was pretty hard to me. It was much harder than I expected it to be. I couldn't even beat the first boss, so I can't say I'm an expert. I'm not very coordinated. I'm just not that good at playing games, but I love to watch them. I like when Frontiers dropped, I watched Faye Mata's stream. Faye Mata's a voice actress and one of my friends in real life, and I watched her stream so I could watch Frontiers because I had to watch it. I wanted to see it, but I couldn't beat the first boss, so I was like, I have to watch a stream and watch someone else beat these guys because these guys are hard to beat. I can't do it. I can't get past this level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find it's much easier to play in the games than on the game.
Yes, agreed.
Ooh, okay. Here is another question in the live stream chat by SSBB47's Brawler. Question for both. Since it's rare to be in the same room when recording, if you had the opportunity to share the booth and work together with someone, who do you pick to work with? Ooh.
Oh, well,
Anyone?
everyone, yeah.
Yeah, anyone and everyone.
We don't have favorites. It would just be it would be cool to see all. I'm so thankful that the Sonic cast across all the different iterations have been so welcoming and warm to me. Even Ryan Drummond like followed me on Twitter the day that my character was announced. Like everyone has been so welcoming. I would be honored to share a booth with any of y'all.
Yeah, that's really cool. Ooh. Oh, okay. Here is another question from Ricky Valdez. Question for Mike. What's it like to be in both dubs of One Piece?
I am honored that they thought of me for a return. And we'll put a big asterisk on this because I wasn't really in the original One Piece. I did promos for it, so I was One Piece adjacent when it was on 4Kids TV in the Vox Box. And I believe it was more coincidence that when auditions came out and I got an audition for One Piece and they liked my audition, they did not necessarily know that I was involved with One Piece before, but it came up. I brought it up in conversation during the record for the later appearance, and I said, I did promos for this back in the early 2000s at 4Kids. And like, oh, cool. Anyway, next line. And so it was more of a thing for me and those watching than those recording, with all due respect. But it's nice to be brought back for an actual reprisal too. For example, Berserk got a new life some 20 years later, and the fine folks at NYAV Post remembered me and most of us and brought us all back, and that was really cool.
Mm. That's really cool. They actually casted you back into One Piece from
Mhm.
4Kids. Ooh, okay. I see another question in the chat from MC Voices. Here's a question for both Mike and Ryan. What are some of the best fan projects featuring your characters that you've seen?
Mm. Do you want to take this one first, Mike? I forgot we were
Sure.
taking turns. Sorry.
Not a problem. It's a tricky question because I've been in some of them as cameos or more than cameos, and that led to some issues which we won't go into here. But one of them was Sonic and Tails R, which I was in for several episodes, and then most recently in Project Shadow, where I had a bit of a cameo that was a little more controlled, where I guess if we count Gerald Robotnik is one of my characters. They had a Gerald Robotnik in there as well, not voiced by me. I was just a random voiceover announcer in one of the internal commercials in the project. But that project has been very well received. and I'm delighted to be a part of that and have gotten away with it.
For me, I mean, I can't say I've seen a ton. Sage is still pretty new, so I haven't seen a lot of like animations or anything like that that are fan created, but I have seen so many pieces of fan artwork and memes that I love that I think are hilarious. Someone asked us too, like what our favorite Sonic memes were, and I totally forgot to mention this one, so I have to mention it now. But you know that meme that's like it's like the favorite child meme, and there's like kids playing a pool, and like two of them are like, like, or one of them is like drowning and the other one's like being played with by his parent, I think that's such a funny, like I've seen a version of that with Orbot and Cubot that are like drowning, and then Eggman's just like playing with Sage. So I think that one is hilarious. And like any of the memes that have like father daughter like memes with Eggman, like everybody loves dad mode Eggman. It's just so funny and endearing and hilarious and charming. So any of the ones that lean into that concept, I always enjoy, and that goes for fan art too, as well as memes. So yeah, that's my answer for now.
Yeah, yeah, that's real. That was pretty funny, Ryan. Ooh, okay. Let's see. Ooh, I see another question from Kevin. My next question for Ryan: how has your experience been with the fandom now that you attended both Sonic Revolution online and Sonic Expo in person?
Oh, what is the question? Oh, repeat that. Sorry.
Oh, how has your experience been with the Sonic fandom now that you've attended both Sonic Revolution online and Sonic Expo in person?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, everyone's been so sweet. It's really interesting getting to see in person. Like, it's one thing to hear people's reactions, and of course, we know that the game made a lot of money, so we knew like, oh, people are digging it. Cool, that's great. But it's a totally different thing to have people come up to your table and tell you in person how much they really like that character, how intricate you made them, how interested they are to see the future of that character. And one person said they think it's like the most popular character since Shadow was introduced. It's like it's very humbling. It's shocking. I never did this expecting any sort of particular reception or reward or anything like that. I was just doing my job. I don't think I really thought like people are gonna love this character as much as they do. But I mean, I see it humanizes Eggman so much, and it lets him have a different, more serious and sympathetic, poignant kind of angle of his character. And I think that that's maybe partly what the fans are responding to. I'm so thankful to get to step into those shoes and help progress the Eggman storyline and develop the Eggman character more. And I'm just very grateful. I mean, everyone's been so sweet. I've never in my life had someone come up and be mean to me that is a Sonic fan. They have all been so welcoming. I think the Sonic community is truly a family. They're all about friendship and being kind, just like Sonic, and the example that Sonic and Tails set for us all with their friendship. And I went to the Sonic Symphony. That felt like a family gathering. That felt like real friendship. It's been very humbling. I'm very, very honored to be a part of this community, and I'm so grateful for the very warm welcome that y'all have given me. Thank you. I will continue to try to make y'all proud and do it justice. And I'm just so happy to be here.
Wow. Yeah, that's really great that Sage really had a lot of positive reception, you
Yeah.
know. like I love Sage. Like the character is like, even though the character is an AI, but like Sage is basically like brings out a different side of Eggman at the same time, even though she is an AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the whole. She's so very human and in these little small ways, and I'm so thankful that the audience picked up on those. And yeah, Sonic fans are smart. They get it.
Like the Spanish Inquisition, no one expects the Sonic fan base.
Don't mess with the Sonic fan base.
Oh, okay. Looks I see a question from Egg Ember. Mike, in Frontiers, were there script notes that asked for serious moments of Eggman to be read in a specific tone, or was it you often decide yourself based on the lines given?
There are notes in the script, but the big note came from our director, Jack, the lovely and talented Jack Fletcher. When we started our sessions, um, especially for those of us who have been doing this for different versions for a while, he told us we're going for a more realistic, more grounded approach. So it is his job ultimately to make sure that I am fitting his vision and the visions of the producers and production team as far as telling their story. But as we went through the recording sessions, of which there were several, he made sure that it was fitting what he heard in his head and what everyone else heard in their heads, and keeping it realistic and grounded. So there are specific notes per line, but ultimately when we record, we would usually do 2 or 3 takes in a row, and then the hive mind behind the glass at the other end of our remote digital lines will say, I like to take A. No, I like to take B. Yeah, maybe B was better too. Okay, let's go with take B. But beyond that, the ultimate choice is out of my hands, or out of any of our hands on the acting side.
Mm. Ooh, okay. I see a question from Maybella, the hedgehog. Question, well, I would say this could go to both of you actually. How many hours did it take for you to record for Sonic Frontiers? What a great question.
Yeah, good question. You should take it first, Mike. I feel like I keep answering first.
Sure. I'm gonna, without adding up timesheets and looking at calendars, there were 4 or 5 recording sessions starting from before the pandemic, in person, even though in person for me still means remote because they send me to a studio in New York and they're all in LA. So I'm in person for me, but I'm remote for them. And then there was a break during the pandemic while everybody regrouped. And then we started recording remotely for another 3 or 4 sessions. Sessions max out at 4 hours. I don't think I ever went more than 2 or 3. So I'm going to take a roundabout estimate of 10 hours, which includes all the DLC and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We started this game a really long time ago, before the pandemic, and I don't fully remember how many sessions I've had, but I think it was probably around maybe 5 or 6 total, couple hours each. So yeah, maybe about 10 or 12 hours. Yeah, that sounds about right.
We are a very small part in these games as far
Yeah.
as investment of time.
Yeah.
Presumably, I mean, I'm not there watching, but I can't imagine the development takes about 10 hours. The actual game development, hours and hours and tons of people.
Exactly. Yeah. I was cast in 2019, I think. So yeah, I mean, we've been working on this game for years, but by we I mean, the creative team has been working, not the voice actors. We come and we go. We do a couple hours here, a couple hours there, but the group as a whole worked on the game for many years before it saw the light of day. So yeah, but our part is short, is much more abbreviated in terms of the hours put in, and it's also spread across so many months or years, so it's hard for us to remember sometimes how many actual hours that we've worked on it. But I would say, yeah, about what Mike said, about 10 to 12 maybe.
But who's counting?
Who's counting?
The payroll people are counting, and that's
our agents.
Yeah, the payroll people, that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting to know because like most people would think, oh, because Sonic Frontiers is a really long game. It's like an open world, and and it does make people wonder how long does it take to record all the lines because it's a lot of lines.
Right, it does. Makes you wonder.
The animation and video game industry figured out a long time ago that the most efficient way to do this is when all the lines are ready to record, that's when you call in the actors. Because
exactly.
Otherwise, you're in for 5 hours, you're in for 5 lines, you're getting paid for 2 hours because there's at least a 2-hour minimum, which is cool, but inefficient if you're the one paying for the 2 hours for 5 lines. So basically, when there's enough of a script ready that it's worth everyone's time and energy and effort to call us together, that's when they call us in. Although sometimes you come back for fixes and it's a couple lines and there's your 2 hour minimum, and cool. But generally, if you're doing a game, you want to keep your bottom line lean and mean. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's very, our part is very concentrated.
Ooh, here's my next question. From both of your perspectives, how would you describe how Sage is able to bring out a different side of Eggman in Sonic Frontiers?
I want to hear Mike's answer first on this one.
Repeat the question if you would please, or Discord glitchy, everyone.
Okay. How would you describe how Sage is able to bring out a different side of Eggman in Sonic Frontiers?
Now that I've been a parent for 21 years, who's counting? Children do that. Before I was a dad, kids were fine. Kids were interesting. Kids were great at a distance. But then when you get your own, it's like, oh, well, for the first couple of years, it's a lot of drooling and changing of bodily fluids. But beyond that, when they become not just artificially intelligent, but actually intelligent and actually interesting people, it's pretty cool. And you can't help but love them most of the time. There are notable exceptions, but most of the time, children are pretty cool to have around.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, I just think like story wise, it gives us such a cool side to see Eggman, be this very doting dad, and you get to see this very humorous and human side of him. And also story wise, it solves this question of who he's talking to. In the movies, they invented this character of his assistant. And it seems like there's just this, like, he does need someone to talk to. He can't just be in a room. He's saying to himself, I'm going to get that hedgehog over and over again. He needs someone to be in dialogue with. And I think that's probably been like a challenge throughout that character's history, probably. And there's different robots who have come and go and have filled that void. But having someone take on like an actual parent-daughter relationship and have it be so charming and funny, and have her, be sort of witty and in her own right, and just to see that dynamic play out and to see his heart melt. And I think of that last shot of him out on the, standing on the cliff in Frontiers after Sage has sacrificed herself. It's so heartbreaking. And, people have always loved Eggman. He's not a flat villain. He's not just evil, People always liked him, always thought he was funny and whatever. But I'm so happy now that people have kind of fallen for this relationship and really buy into it and believe it. I think that's so wonderful for both of those characters. Yeah, so it's just, I'm so happy that I get to take part in telling that story. It's very cute.
Yeah, usually he's accompanied by robot henchmen whose primary job is comic relief at being incompetent. Not always. Sometimes they have flashes of brilliance, but it's you nattering nincompoops and all that.
Right.
Stuff. But Sage doesn't have that yet.
Yeah, she's
that
very
may come later. I don't know.
I'll try my best, Father. No, she's very
when she
confident.
reaches adolescence, you see.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, that's not.
I'll try my best. No, she's very confident. She doesn't make a lot of mistakes. She's several steps ahead of the game, and she challenges him in a more in a way, challenges him, I guess, in different ways, but essentially to push his humanity and open his heart, in a cool way. So it's really cool to see that character develop. I love being a part of that Eggman storyline.
Looks like we have time for at least 2 more questions.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Ooh, okay. What brand of recording equipment do you both use to have quality, and which would you recommend?
Oh, good question. Do you want to hit it first, Mike?
You can, because I have to pull up my list of stuff.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if yours is in front of you, that you can just look at. Mine's in a list because I'm downstairs.
Absolutely. I use a Mojave MA200, which is a microphone brand, Mojave. And I love it. I absolutely, it's served me so well. I've had it for several years, and I just really swear by it. I also have a Neumann U87 that everybody talks about, but I just personally like the Mojave better. I like how it sounds better. So I have a couple mics just in case it's a backup, because you sometimes when things go wrong, and we learn this during remote recording, you have to have like a couple different. You have to almost have two of everything just to see like what's the problem. Like if you have a cord that's going out, you have to have two cords so you know it's the cord and not the mic or the interface. You know what I mean? So that's a bit annoying. And troubleshooting is a whole nother thing we could talk about it another, that's, we won't get into that. That's pandemic problems. But like my preference for the microphone is the Mojave MA200, and then my interface is the Universal Audio Arrow, which I'm not sure if they still make that model anymore. Universal Audio makes a lot of interfaces. I don't know if they make the Arrow anymore, but they make a lot of good products. And yeah, that's what I'm recording on.
Cool. When I first started doing this, I was all USB based because that's all that anyone cared about for auditions. And then the pandemic happened and it was time for an upgrade because suddenly we're recording from home and nothing works right with all the fancy remote technology that everyone wants to use. So before that, I tried to work with the broadcast standard Electro Voice RE20 because there's a radio guy. That's what all the radio people used. And I've always wanted one of my own. I have one. It's not really suited to the animation and gaming world, but I have one again as a backup, or if I'm doing something that needs to sound like it was on the radio, there's that. Early in the pandemic, one of my clients loaned out microphones to their talent just so that everyone could sound fairly consistent. I've been using a borrowed Audio Technica AT4033A, mostly because they haven't asked for it back yet. But that came up in conversation recently, and I said, well, you said you were going to recommend some microphones that I could buy, and the Neumann U87 came up in conversation, and I said, because it's been a while, and I think I deserve that. Do you think I deserve that? And I said, well, it's expensive, and I said, yeah, but a few big sessions will pay for it, and yeah. So there is one that has been purchased in my name, sitting in the client's studio waiting for me to pick up. I'm in no great rush. No one's clamoring for me to have the U87, but presumably I'll go pick that up, pay them back. They'll take their Audio Technica back, and I'll have my Neumann. Yay me.
Cool.
I have duplicates, redundant versions of some microphones. I will not be having a redundant version of the Neumann. One will be enough, treating it with kid gloves. And then that is going into a solid state Logic SSL2 interface, which another client recommended, and that served me well. And then I have a couple of fanless laptops so I can stand right next to them and they don't make any noise, which is really cool.
Nice. All right, here's my last question. I am very curious, Mike. How would you describe how your Eggman voice has evolved and changed from when you first started voicing in Sonic X to now? I'm very curious.
Sure, that's a multi-part question. Let me see if I can keep it somewhat brief. When we started, I auditioned as a Dean Bristow sound-alike. So they gave me clips of Dean Bristow, and I went in and auditioned. I'm Dean Bristow. Sega was not convinced, I guess, when they heard that first round of stuff. So the local producers in New York, brought me back for 2 callbacks, both of which I did the same Dean Bristow impression. I'm Dean Bristow. And finally, the third attempt was the winner, and we started recording Sonic X. And I was Dean Bristow sound-alike for the first few episodes until the producer and director came to me and said, we'd like you to add some peaks and valleys to your voice so we can account for more comedy. And they gave me a template of Martin Short's Jiminy Glick character, who starts up way up high and then goes way down low. So that's why Eggman got his ridiculously exaggerated peaks and valleys. And along with all the yelling and stuff. And in 20 years, with yelling and screaming for fun and profit and the natural aging of the voice, it's become a little less of a put on voice and more of the naturally weathered voice of a nearly 60-year-old man, which is a 60-year-old character. So I guess at some point, the graph is going to, the axes on the graph are going to cross, and we'll both be the same age and sound the same. And then I will age and we'll see what happens to the voice. But it's become a lot more, not my normal voice. This is obviously, there's a difference between me sounding like me and me sounding like Dr. Eggman. But there is less of a distinction just because of the toll and the joy of the toll that the character has taken on my vocal tract.
That I just love how like yeah, when I first heard it in Sonic X, it really did sound like a lot like Dean Bristow, and then you kind of like, it just evolved into what we know, from your voice performance as Eggman now.
Thank you. Yeah, it settles into a comfortable place. It's still, sessions, as I said, go at least 2 to possibly 4 hours. 4 hours of a voice like that will leave me hoarse for the next day or two. I just recorded a game with a character, a similar sounding character, and it was a very intense 2 hours of doing this gravelly voice. And by the end of it, I was okay. And then by that evening, oh, I guess I sound like this now. Okay, great. That lasted for a couple of days, and then I was fine. But yeah, it becomes a comfortable place, but it's still not effortless. And I love the honor of being able to do it, but I'm conscious of the damage that it will take, and not only in the long term, but the short term damage of I should probably take the next couple days off. I won't sound good, but it's the nature of the business.
Unfortunately, we will have to end this Q&A. um, but I would like to thank you both, Mike and Ryan, for doing this Q&A.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That was so fun. I love chatting. I always learn cool things chatting with Mike. So this is, and getting to chat with you guys, getting to see the comments on the YouTube. It's been so fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Certainly. Thank you. Yes, always a pleasure listening to Ryan, both on and off microphone.
Aw, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, cool. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. It's just such an honor to do this Q&A, but I know you guys are busy, but I'm really glad that we were able to do the time that we had for this
Thank
Q&A.
you. Well, hopefully we'll be chatting with you soon, or doing more events with the community, and hopefully seeing some of you guys in person at cons and everything.
Absolutely.
But yes, stay tuned for the upcoming live streams for as well as the next. Don't worry, for the new live stream series, we are still cooking up the first episode, as well as we are still planning also the Sonic Lore with Radar, and as well as the Lucky Charm podcast. I want to thank you all for your questions. This was probably like the most a lot of questions. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this Q&A.
So cool. So cool.
Thank you for watching and listening.
Do you guys have any final words for the audience?
Oh gosh, just that, we're so humbled to be a part of this franchise. The community is unlike any other. Like I said, I felt it in the room when I went to the company, and I felt it at the cons. The love is real, the dedication is real. Meeting fans of all ages so touches my heart that, Sonic appeals to so many different age ranges, and we have the new generation and the kids, and then we also have people that have grown up with it since they were kids, and now they're in their 30s, 40s, whatever. And I love that, Frontiers has managed to appeal to a more mature audience as well, because it is, like I said, it's a hard game. I cannot beat the first boss. So it's technically a hard game, but it's emotionally also very mature and grounded and realistic, and it is made for those older fans, I believe. It's really welcoming to what we see as a very broad fan base, and I'm just so grateful to be a small part of this community. And like I said, all of the actors and the creative team, both abroad in Japan and here in the States, have been so kind to me and so fostering of a really great environment. I am so humbled to get to work with, and being mentioned in the same breath as the Sonic cast across all different types of Sonic media. I've been directed by both Cindy Robinson and Lisa Ortiz. They're amazing. They're so incredible. And all the different Sonics that exist. I love working with Jason. Devin Mack is the sweetest dude. Like I said, Ryan Drummond followed me on Twitter, and he didn't have to. He didn't know who I was. You know what I mean? It's like it goes so far beyond what you guys could even know. The level of warmth and respect and joy that this community has brought, both on the creative side and in the fan base. We are just so humbled to be a small part of it. So please know that, I want to make you guys proud, and I want to keep trying my best. And I know what an honor this is. I don't take it for granted. And I just promise to and hope to keep wearing it with poise and dignity, and just do everything I can to make you guys smile and bring some joy into your lives. And I'm just so glad to be here. So thank you guys so very much for letting me join your Sonic family.
Speaking of cons, the convention world is embracing reunions these days, which is good because I have two sets of Sonic families, the pre-2010, the 2003 to 2010 family, and then the 2010 to present family. And I am getting to appear at cons not only with the Rogers and Cindys of the world, but also the Jasons and Lisas and Pete Capellas of the world, along with Ryan as well. And so if you find us at a local convention, your Sonic worlds may blend and meld in unpredictable ways.
It's true. It's true. And we all, it seems like a very, it's just everybody has a lot of love and respect in all directions. There's no animosity. I love blending the blended casts. It's all good vibes. We're just all so happy and humbled to be involved in any way. So, whatever Sonic version of the cast that you want to meet, we're all out there. We're trying to do our cons. We're trying to meet you guys, and we're just so happy to be there and to be with each other and get to meet each other. I got to meet Pete for the first time recently, and he was so funny and delightful. So we're having a good time. We're excited to be on the road together and mix and mingle, and we're excited to meet you guys.
Agreed.
And there you have it. May you all have a wonderful day, and thank you all for the questions for Mike and Ryan here.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good questions.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.